Thank you for coming. I'm really excited you are here. If you are somebody for a long time has wanted to create or rebuild your life and the way that you feel you live your one precious life, making every day your dream come true on your own terms, then you're in the right place. And if you've wondered, what is the missing step? What's the secret? What is it that those happy people on the beach seem to know that I don't know? And what is it that the people on Facebook, even people that you know who may have been experiencing some big challenges in their life, they somehow know how to find stability quickly when things go awry. And they feel connected and confident, and they have certainty in their life. And somehow they just seem to know that they're independent and they've got it going on. They have great communication, and as they're laughing with their family, enjoying life with their kids who they trust, and their kids who come to them when they need help, and then when the going gets tough and when the circle of life comes full circle, their kids are happy to come to them in a caring way. This presentation is all about rebuilding your life without a partner. So let's get started. And I'm happy to share the life worth living process with you. Because if you see these people who seem to have it going on and you're wondering, what is it? Maybe you've heard that it's that they just get lucky and that some people have enough stability in their life that they can afford to be happy and carefree. And somehow you feel like you should be doing a better job, or you somehow feel cheated. And it doesn't always feel like life has turned out the way that you had planned for it to. Okay, would you like to play a game? So this is, a version of the game of life. I love this particular picture of the cover of the game we used to play, a full 3D action game. Yes, life is definitely a full 3D action game. And this particular version of it, Art Linkletter heartily endorses as a family game. So if you'll play a game with me in the next few minutes, you may learn the secret that will change your life forever. You may learn how to prevent a life of struggle, grief, and misery, and how to live your best life now. So my question to you is this. I'm going to share with you some insights from people who have come to me and what we did while we were working together. So do any of these people sound like you or someone who you know? And there's a big extra bonus because maybe you can guess which one's me. So what I'd like for you to do is give yourself a point for every adjective that sounds like it might be you. And there are, 4 or 5 big ones that I'll highlight. Give yourself a point for those. So this is Barbara. Barbara's marriage had ended. She was recovering from a very traumatic experience. Her kids were on their own. Her life plan was uncertain. She was anxious and she just didn't have the energy to get out of bed anymore. And she didn't know how to keep going. She was wondering, I don't know where I fit, and I hate the ways that I'm coping, and I'm not good enough. And so as a result, she started to isolate herself. So Barbara was feeling, I don't have purpose. Give yourself a point if you ever feel disconnected from yourself, your family, your community, your friends. So that's the value of 1 point. If you have felt depressed recently, or you know that there have been times when you felt really depressed and you didn't know how to move through it, that's a point. Give yourself a point if you're feeling lonely or alone. A point for feeling burnt out, feeling like you used to have the energy to do stuff and you don't know where to get it anymore. There's a point. And if you're feeling hopeless, like you don't know what to do with your life or where that next inspiration is going to come from, that's a point. Okay, so you may have 4 or 5 points by now. Now let me introduce you to Elizabeth. Elizabeth came to me and she was saying, when I'm busy taking care of everyone and everything, who is taking care of me? Elizabeth had gone through a health issue. She has moved to a new community and she's a single mom. She's got 2 kids. And this health issue caused a brain fog that she just couldn't shake. And it made making decisions really hard for her. And as a result, she was self-sabotaging herself in a spectacular way, which ultimately invited social services in to remove her children from her custody until she reproved that she was a fit parent. She didn't know who to go to for advice on things that really mattered. And she just didn't know how to get excited about things again. She was just going through the motions. Elizabeth felt numb and she felt like people said things that were really hurtful. So she was feeling shamed and fearful that she would lose her kids again. And she felt like she didn't belong. She felt excluded and always on guard. And she says to me, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired and hurting all the time. There are so many things I want to do in my life. Will I always feel like I have to miss out on my own life and my kids' lives and my friends and my family? So this is what Elizabeth was going through. Do you ever feel this way? Give yourself a point if you are feeling not enough. Give yourself a point if you have difficulty with making decisions. And it could be the big decisions or it might be the little ones. But if you're having difficulty making decisions, give yourself a point. If you feel fearful about what life might hold, if you're always worrying about what could happen or what should happen, give yourself a point. And if you're feeling stuck, like you simply don't know the way through this to be happy again and independent and feeling strong, give yourself a point. And if you're just feeling lost, like you don't know the next steps to take, then give yourself a point. Let me now introduce you to David. David came to me saying, how can I be everything to everyone? David had lost his wife. And when she passed, they didn't have a will, they didn't have healthcare directives, they didn't have the legal papers in place. And as a result, there were so many additional losses when he lost his love. He came to me because the kids were going through challenges. He didn't know how to do all the work he needed to do and take care of the kids. And he just didn't know how to do this, is what he said. And he wanted to run away, but there was literally no escape. So he felt like everything was a huge effort. He felt disconnected. He felt frustrated. He felt worried about other people's view of him, that he was unworthy and not enough. His life felt like it went from color to black and white. And he was wondering, how do I find new love? So if you've ever felt like David, heartbroken, give yourself a point. If you've ever felt like there's just no escape for this, and there's no healthy escape for this, because the escapes that you might choose could be dangerous or risky and result in further losses, give yourself a point. If you feel worried about yourself, your job, your kids, then give yourself a point. Okay, now the next person, see if you can guess who it is. This is me, and I was wishing for clear directions to success. I was widowed. I went from being a partner to a sole parent and the head of household. I was expected to be 2 people all the time in 2 places all the time and to have 2 incomes and to know all of the answers to all of the homework questions. Others couldn't understand the entire picture. And I felt overwhelmed and lonely, and people treated me differently. I wanted my life back. And I was wondering, how do I get through this grief in a healthy way to rebuild my life? I was feeling like there must be something more. Am I worthy of loving again and being loved in the way that I was before? So it doesn't always have to feel like that, but if you've had loss and you want to make sure that you're grieving in a healthy way, give yourself a point. If you're head of household, that's valued at a point. And if you are the only person that somebody comes to for advice, care, mentorship, parenting, or perhaps you're caring for a parent, give yourself a point. If you feel overwhelmed, like there is just too much going on and you can't handle it all at once and it needs to be project managed and prioritized, give yourself a point. And if you're feeling uncertain about where life should be taking you and how things should turn out, give yourself a point. So in this game that we've just played, the 3D version of life, there are 20 points possible. So if at any point you gave yourself a point, either 1 point and up to 4 points, then let's rate it on the scale, because let's help you rebuild your life worth living. There's plenty of stuff to learn in this webinar and that I can share with you from my experience, because I went through it, and from people who I've helped along the way. If you scored somewhere between 4 and 8 points, then pay attention. You and I, we probably need to talk. There's so much more that you could be doing. And if you scored more than 8, maybe 8 to 12 or all the way up to 20, maybe you were listening to the other adjectives I gave and you scored more than 20 points. Maybe you lost count. Pay attention and listen to what could go wrong. Here I was. I had rebuilt my life and my family's life, and we were restabilized and doing fine. And here's what happened. One of my high school buddies, who I used to go running with, he went out for a run. He had a heart attack and died. Totally unexpected. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And then I realized, oh my God, I do know what to do because I've been through it. So I went to his widow and I said, this is never going to be okay. I'm going to hold your hand and walk this journey with you. Let's project manage this thing. And all the mourners in the living room went, whew, somebody who knows what they're doing is taking the lead. So I helped my friend's widow, and her name is Jennifer, go from only planning dinner that evening, and now she's planning a community-wide memorial, and she's planning on how do I rebuild my whole life for myself and my children all over again. Imagine, she was only planning dinner. Her husband went out for a run, and her whole life changed. My community saw that I went through loss and rebuilt life in a really healthy way. So they called on me to guide others through the process. And initially, I wondered, how was I qualified for this role? And of course, as I called on my years of professional experience, as well as my personal life experience, I shared my insight and guidance with those ready to take action and discover their own life worth living, despite massive change. Could it be that you've had a death in your family? Could it be that you had a major life change like a divorce, like Elizabeth? Could it be that maybe you've moved communities? That's a big change. The whole world has gone through a huge change through the pandemic. It's always the right time when you've changed who you used to be to who you are becoming, to take a moment and go through the Life Worth Living 7-step process and make sure you've got everything in place. So when I learned that I could navigate widowhood and sole parenting, and I figured it out, I started to help others. And my clients say things like, your hindsight gives me foresight. So as a result, I compiled all the steps that I learned into this book, Life Worth Living, a practical and compassionate guide to navigating widowhood and soul parenting. And it became a #1 international bestseller because there's so many people who can benefit from project managing and prioritizing what's important. There was no guide to navigating the rebuild of your life after a major change. So this is the book I wrote. And I'm here because you and your children are valued and valuable and have a life worth living. The book took off. It's a bestseller in 12 countries. I got picked up by a publisher. I was doing red carpet events. There was an ebook, there's an audiobook, there's a paperback book. I was doing book signings. I was doing interviews and podcasts. But really, my question is, how can I help you today? Because I want to know, how much longer are you willing to wait? How much longer are you willing to wait to take control of your one precious life? The heart of all of this trauma is anxiety. There's a name for this kind of anxiety. It's called disintegration anxiety. It's a fear that people develop after they've gone through trauma or some grief period. And I don't want you to stay stuck. I'm giving you permission to take control of your life and write your next chapter the way you want to live it. So let's talk about that plan of how to take control of your life. And this is going to be how you establish your new identity, because you can no longer be that other person. When I was widowed, I could no longer be the same person I was. And if you've gone through a divorce, your identity has changed. If you've lost someone very, very close to you, it changes everything. So I've taken these 7 steps and I'm going to share them with you. And I actually have a gift for you if you stay at the end to help find your purpose at the intersection of passion, skill, and your earning potential, just like that's what Barbara needed. Barbara needed to re-infuse her life with the value that she contributes to her community. So her comment to me after she started to feeling independent again, she felt like she had unblocked potential. She felt like she had unlimited revenue and she was energized. She said, you helped me project manage and prioritize the important things in my life and you put everything in the right position. So Elizabeth says, now, after going through the 7 steps of the Life Worth Living process, I can take care of my kids and myself. She says, Michelle, thank you for getting me stabilized enough through a health situation to even begin to make quality life decisions. I know I lived through it. It was kind of a fog. You helped me to parent my kids and put things in place so they will be positioned well. So she went from feeling burnt out to feeling back into peak performance. And she's making better decisions with a clear head. So what we did was I helped her become a stronger parent. She's now feeling confident. She's got a life plan with the steps she needs in place. Her kids are feeling secure again. She's got new purpose. She's helping other people. Now, do you remember David? David's the one who says, your hindsight gives me foresight. He's also saying, my family is balanced and whole again. David went from wondering, how can I be everything to everyone? And he was so overwhelmed. And when he went through the 7 steps, he was able to identify what was most important to him in his life and in his next relationship, which was also a priority for him. And that was finding the right next companion. He then found himself dating as a parent with children. So how do you find the right new love for you? And how do you move from chemistry to casual to committed? So David found lasting love that lasts. And in fact, he recently got married. He went from worried about the kids all the time to creating an advisory board. He reset his priorities. He now feels fulfilled and calm. Well, what about me? I wrote the book on it. I now was worried, being going from wishing for clear directions to success and not seeing a way through it to having a life worth living. My biggest concern was stabilizing our lives so that my kids could feel safe in a stable environment to thrive. I happen to be pretty good at finding focus in chaos, and I found emotional stability where I needed to find it, not only for me, but for the kids, by using the 7-step process. Now I feel like I'm not only do I feel like other people reinforce I'm a competent guide for others. Your hindsight gives me foresight. I feel like I've got a clear, well-lit path. The kids are thriving, we are all stabilized, and we're all inspired. So let me, let me share with you all of the secrets that I learned and put into 7 simple steps to rebuild your life without a partner. I'm super excited to share this work with you. And I know that you too can take the action to live a full and happy life. So here we go. If you're ready, I can share them with you. Yes, it starts with fun at the top. The 7 steps to a life worth living. The goal, of course, is fun and diversion. That's what we're all shooting for. It's why we're here. And it's all about connection and how to enjoy life. But how do you stabilize yourself to get that? Because that little fun triangle is, of course, at the top of a pyramid. So starting with decision making in a healthy way, we work all the way up. But what's the support for fun? Oftentimes, you need to make sure you've stabilized career and money. And once you've got that in place, it's based on the support of recalibrating relationships, because things do change. When you change, so does everything else. So to make sure that you're building on like Darwin's Maslow hierarchy of needs, you need to be in good health and make sure that your self-care is covered, because more than just your life is on the line now. So sometimes what you may have thought were luxuries in the past are now mandatory. And we'll go into that later. And to support all of that, it's vital to protect what's valuable to you, your children, your legal documents, of course, your health. And to do that, I share with you how to develop an advisory board. And again, I'll go through the steps in more detail, but I'm just giving you the high-level overview here, because just like a board of or an organization has a board of directors, you can have an advisory board as well. And just like I said in the beginning, all of this is based on making very clear, confident, accurate decisions in a really healthy way. So this is how I start the whole thing when people come to me. Generally, when people come to me, I start with this confidence assessment. And what we do is we determine which priority we need to address things in and what % confidence, I got this, do you have? And it's a very simple exercise, and it makes it abundantly clear where there may be weaknesses or room for issues to arise. So here we go. We're going to stretch your strengths and strengthen your weaknesses. Let's start with step number 1, which is deciding to move forward. Deciding to move forward is all about addressing grief or trauma, or the fact that you're changing your role in some way. And this could even be in a positive way. Maybe you're inviting a new love in, and if you're really ready to make a big connection, then it's also the right time to reevaluate things and let go of your former role and identify as someone new. And addressing grief of letting go of that old identity is all about determining how you hold that grief and adjusting your relationship so you can identify what treasure grief holds for you so that you can honor that in a really beautiful way, as opposed to letting grief have a hold on you, which could create a situation where you get stuck. And what happens then is that builds up anxiety. Anxiety is your body's response to stress. Stress is pressure or tension, and you can feel that in a physical way. So oftentimes, anxiety is wrapped up in any change in life. And like I said, whether it's good stress or bad stress, there may be moments of being anxious. And I've got a beautiful, simple, straightforward process that helps you move through the mindset that anxiety may hold you down. But by going through this process, it actually helps clear the picture and set the stage for what's really happening. So when you're done feeling anxious and spiraling, or your brain is grinding on an issue, then what we do together is we talk about the facts. What's the primary fact that would hold up in court? What's the real issue? What thought in one sentence in your mind might that conjure up? And in one word, what's a description of your feeling that is in response to that thought and that fact? Most importantly, how does your behavior change? Either what action do you take, what inaction, or what reaction do you take? And then we look at the outcome, and your results are determined all by your behavior. Then when we adjust the mindset, we really only have to make one little pivot shift, and everything starts to fall into place. In this case, the big decision is deciding to move forward and take action. The next step is building an advisory board. Realize that you are not alone. None of us are alone in this world. And just like an organization understands that, you can build an advisory board like an organization has a board of directors. So this is your support team that you install around you. And so often we just let it happen, or we just get lucky by meeting someone. But what if you actually found someone who you could actually connect and lock into place to be an emotional champion, for example? And when you build your advisory board with intention, that's how things start to happen like magic. So there are 3 big segments on your advisory board. Your emotional champions. These are people who will listen and always be on your side. Then there's the people who will challenge you to be your best and not rest on your laurels. And it's important to note also that there are people who should not be on this list. The second category is subject matter experts. And these are trusted mentors who help you make decisions that are in your best interest. They could be educators or advisors. They're people who you would go to, like you'd go to a financial expert for financial advice. You'd go to your mechanic to get advice on the car. You'd go to an architect to get advice on building something. But make sure you're going to the right person for the right thing. Accountability and network partners is the third category of your advisory board. And these are the people who help keep you on track. They connect you with the next right thing, and they may even leverage their position to help you with yours. And the best part of the advisory board is knowing that gratitude grows in a forward motion. What does that mean? It means that you're also on somebody else's advisory board, so you can be there to help others. Okay, let's take a moment and play a game. Here's the game. The game is called Large and Small, and I do this in person and we can walk around the room, but in this case, let's just stick with each other. You're seated, and just take a moment to feel grounded and feel like your hips are on your chair, your feet are on the floor. Let your hips be in alignment with your spine and your head in line with your shoulders and spine. Take a deep breath in like it's a rejuvenating breath of fresh air, like it's blue, coming in and nourishing every cell of your body. And as you exhale, exhale, red. Let go of what you don't need. Take another deep breath in. Take in what you do need. Relax for a moment and exhale, let go of what you don't. Okay, here we go. Ready for the exercise. This exercise is designed for you to get an idea of realizing how your physical presence has an effect on your emotional presence. And here's what we're doing. If you'll take a moment and just take another breath in and feel the air going in through your nose and down your throat. Can you feel where the air is going? It kind of feels cool in the back of your throat, and exhale. Now, what I'd like you to do is tip your head down and ultimately squeeze your chin in toward your neck. Maybe you want to slump your shoulders down. And what I'd like you to do is get as small as you possibly can, staying right here, right now. Now, while you're in this position, what I'd like for you to share with me, and we'll share it in the chat later, how are you feeling? And the emotions and the feelings that I tend to hear are depressed, sad, downtrodden. And then I ask you, where in your peripheral vision can you see if your head is down? Well, I'm looking at my feet, so all I can see is where I am right now. It's hard to see my peripheral vision, and I cannot see where I'm going. So essentially, I cannot see the future. And when you're walking, this is an extra profound exercise because it's a little unstabilizing. While you're here in this small, crunched up, little teeny tiny, minuscule position with your chin close up to your chest, can you take a breath in and feel how that air is blocked off and your windpipe is stuck? It's hard to breathe. It's hard to see the future. It's very sad. All right, enough of that. Now let's do the opposite and get as big as you can be. Get very, very large. And this time your chin is going to be up, up, up. And when I ask people, how are you feeling in this position? They tend to say, I'm feeling arrogant, like my nose is in the air, and I can only see the future. I can't see where I am, and I don't feel grounded. I can't really see my peripheral vision, and when you try to take that breath in, it's actually, again, another blocked windpipe. So you can't even get a good breath of air. And you're big and you're huge. And now come back to center. Take a breath in. Open airways with your eyes maybe 2 inches above the horizon. See that you can kind of get an idea of where your feet are, so you're still feeling grounded. You can feel your peripheral vision off to the side without turning or looking, and you can actually see what's ahead of you. So this is the most open position that you can hold. And that's the exercise of small versus large. So if you're feeling a little too small, you can actually take a moment and get really big and stretch things out and then come back to center. And if for some reason you're feeling like you've lost a sense of being grounded and you just can't see where you're at the moment to make a good decision, you can get small and get grounded again and then come back to center. Very nice. So that's an exercise that's super fun to do. It's super easy to do, and you can do it on a moment's notice. Now, there's our station identification break, our little bit of exercise. Let's jump back in. We are on step 3 of the 3-step process. And this is all about protecting what is valuable to you. And in this case, the first most important things that I talk about are sometimes subjects that are a little, they're not the first dinner table conversation. And no taboo, no topic is taboo with me, but in reality, what I want to make sure is that your legal papers are in place. Do you have a will? Do you have your health care uh, directives in place? Have you identified beneficiaries? Do you have everything that you need so that in the unlikely event that you pass away, your loved ones are cared for? And then there's also, I do a whole workshop on developing a legacy of love. And this is an ethical will. And these can be done in many different ways, but it's essentially a collection of future letters to your loved ones as a really simple way to do it. And I've got them all set up. They're super easy to do. And that brings us to step number 4. This is health and self-care because more than your life depends on it. There are a couple things to address in health and self-care. There's the obvious, the actual stress reaction to challenges in your life and how to respond. And then there's the things that get in the way of you trying to minimize stress. There's difficult stress, and there's actually good stress, which provides a little bit of pressure. And I'm going to walk you through some of this. People always say, oh, take care of yourself. But I was wondering, what does that mean? Does it mean watch what you eat? Does it mean make sure you get a good night's sleep? Does it mean you should plan for tomorrow? Does it mean you should live for today? You know, your children can't afford to lose you. So it's all about making sure that you have what you need in the right place at the right time. And my daughter put this together for me so beautifully once. She was very little. She had some invisible friends. It was appropriate, developmentally appropriate at the time for her to have invisible friends. But she really knocked me off my feet with this one. She says, Mom, I have 2 invisible friends. They're good food and bad food. Good food helps her face challenges and willpower obstacles. And she says, good food is a good example for the right growing food. And she teaches good manners. And then there's bad food, who is mischievous and teaches you how to eat junk food and get into mischief. And she teaches bad manners. And here's what my daughter says to me. Mom, you can try to get ahead of bad food, but bad food is very powerful. And we'll try to overcome whatever obstacle you put in place so that she can teach you to be mischievous and make the wrong decision. So I really only need to be a little stronger than bad food. I'm like, that was really all we need. You don't need to be the Olympic athlete of willpower. Willpower is when given 2 choices, making the harder choice. And just as my daughter had said, you don't need to be like the super stellar power person of every decision you make. Just be a little stronger than bad food to listen to your inner voice. And there are times when what may have been considered a luxury is really not a luxury at this point, because it's going to be something that gets you where you need to go. Easy examples of that, I was working with a client who really was having trouble making food because she was just one person. And she wished that she could get one of those food service deliveries, but it was too expensive. And then we went through the process and we went through the budget, and she realized she's actually saving a lot more money and she's gaining a lot better health by doing something that she would have thought was a luxury in the past. Okay, so this is all about being better at responding to stress. It may save your life. There are physiological responses to how your attitude reflects stress on your body. In your brain, stress makes you social. and you've got your pituitary gland pumping out oxytocin when you are then faced with either a physical stress or mental or emotional stress. Your body responds with this oxytocin, and it will actually strengthen your heart and act as an anti-inflammatory, as well as help your blood vessels stay relaxed, and it helps heart cells regenerate and heal from any stress-induced damage. This is all if you have the right attitude toward stress. So how do you get that? How do you develop resilience? One of my very dear colleagues, Dr. Adam Dorsey, who's a licensed psychologist, he was saying there's a couple simple things you can do to leap from anxiety to courage. Ask yourself, what would your hero do? And that little mind shift may be enough to get you where you need to go. There's the serenity prayer of knowing the difference between what you have control and influence over and what you don't. You can put together a gratitude playlist, comedy, unwind and relax, because news and stress can be overwhelming. And the most important thing I'd like to point out here is when people are feeling alone, loneliness is not a choice, but being alone is, and you can connect with friends in real time. Okay, I have 45 seconds of my favorite thing to share with you here. And this I call the resiliency roller coaster. This is my daughter, and when she was little, and what she wanted more than anything else was to ride a roller coaster, to scream like a little girl. And this is her chance to do it. And the reason I present this to you is because it depicts exactly what happens to you when you're facing stress. So let's go ahead and watch it, and I will walk you through my daughter being excited about screaming on her first roller coaster ride. And she practices. Listen, she's excited for this new opportunity, this new phase in her life. That's her practicing her screaming. Here we go. Imagine, if you will, and then you realize the new thing in life that you're facing. And that is trepidation and fear and loss of control. And, oh God, you little sweetheart. So what is happening is this overwhelming stress until you can actually almost see her inner voice is talking to her now, and she's gaining her sense of self, and her inner voice is directing the outcome. That was fun, Dottie. So once she got control of the situation and realized that she was doing this on purpose to scream like a little girl, she was then in control, and the stress became exciting. Okay, step 5, recalibrating relationships. This is all about adjusting your relationship, first of all, with yourself. And oftentimes we don't feel good enough. We don't feel good enough to meet other people's expectations. And sometimes we cage ourselves and we make decisions based on what we think other people are thinking. I have a client who calls that FOBU, the fear of this behavior change. And most importantly, it's vital to remember to do the right thing for you and your family, and not change your behavior or the outcomes based on what you think other people might be thinking. Because people change. We recalibrate relationships because people change. It is your responsibility to set the tone for how people respond to you. And then you can re-up your relationships with people. What about your relationship with your children? And anywhere along this road, and in our conversation, you can take out the word children and put your best friend or your partner or your boss or whoever it is. I help parents who have lost a spouse figure out how to parent alone. And so I'm going to use the word children because many of us have children who we actually need to parent. But it could be your inner child. It could be somebody who you care for. It could be that you're caring for your parent. So most importantly, don't panic. Assess what the kids know and actively listen to what their understanding is. Let them talk to you and ask them, what do you know about the situation? Because they're going to tell you what they do know and what they don't know. And then it's up to you to explain in an age appropriate way at a level they can understand what they need to know at that point in time and the facts of the situation. The three pillars, next one, this is a good one. The three pillars of a strong relationship. So, and this has worked, time tested, so that your kids will come to you, is to work on communication, trust, and respect. They're the three vital pillars in any relationship. If it's a partner, if it's a boss, if it's the next door neighbor. And really, like in a triangle, at least two of them need to be supporting the other, so they may adjust, but those are the three. As your kids get older and you're building communication, trust, and respect, the tricks that I share with people, and oh my God, I can't even tell you how many times people have asked me, it's listen or guide, or was it again? I ask my children, would you like me to listen, guide, or help? And then the hardest part is doing only the one they ask. When somebody needs an ear, sometimes they just need to voice what's going on with them out loud. And once they've done that, they can figure things out on their own. If not, then they can ask for guidance. And then you get to share your value system with them. But it's really still up to them to take action. And if they ask for your help, that's when you can step in and actually be of help. I also remember David. I also have people who come to me who are working on how do I date? How do I date as a parent with children? Dating is different these days, and the rules of engagement have changed. David says, thank you, Michelle. I love you. You reminded me I am the key master to my own doors. And like I said, he did get married to the right person very recently. All right, we're on number 6, career and money. Revenue and resources. It's a matter of, are you looking for passive income or an active income? How much and when? And where's the intersection between your passion, skill, and what people will pay you to do? Remember, Barbara was looking for purpose in life again. And so she actually relied on all of her professional experience to enter the workforce again as a mature person who's got the experience, which far outweighs anything anyone else could have brought to the table when it came to her specific function in the job that she's taken on for herself. Surviving a return to a community is a big deal, and you might be onboarding back into the workplace after a gap in employment, or you're evaluating what your skills are now to keep your current job. It's really all about the fundamentals that you put in place. All right, we got to the top of the pyramid, fun and diversion. This is the framework that I take people through. Fun and diversion is always, we have general ideas of what that's going to look like, but each person has a different idea of tips to enjoy life celebrations and milestones and what's fun for you right now. Things may have been different before than they are now. And it's important to remember to highlight the moments in between, to dance in the kitchen when you're doing dishes, to make the connection, make the Zoom call, make it a fun, build a community online right now where you can feel connected again, even without leaving your home. There's so much opportunity for fun and diversion that's right for you right now. Maybe it's planning an air balloon trip. Maybe it's a picnic. Maybe it's something you used to love to do that you'd like to try again. So don't forget to take joy in the little things, those pearls of life along the way. Okay, we've gone through the 7 steps, and people oftentimes think they can do it on their own. Here you are putting music on while you're washing the dishes, putting joy back in life, This is the framework I take people through when I work with somebody like Barbara, Elizabeth, David, or Jennifer, who I highlight in my book, The Life Worth Living. These are people who were stuck between a rock and a hard place, but we helped them find the way through. I want to share a true story with you. It's a bit of a devastating story. And the reason that I have a picture of a bus here is because I met a bus driver who was asking me, where were you when my sister needed you? Her sister, Evelyn, had passed. Evelyn got a big insurance payout. She then was making a lot of decisions that weren't always in the best interest in the long term. She was making great short-term decisions for herself, or so it seemed. She was purchasing cars, she was purchasing lavish clothes and expensive vacations to try and fill the gap of the loss of her husband. I mean, she had just had a major loss. She relied on him wholly. She didn't have any work experience and she was hurting. So she did the only thing she knew how to do, which was to try and make herself feel better in the moment. But as a result, her two children were feeling a little left behind. Her daughter was in school. Her son got involved in a group of people because he was going through these challenges too. And they got him involved in some risky and dangerous behaviors. And unfortunately, her son died by suicide. Her daughter then turned 18 and decided that she no longer wanted to feel part of her life with her mom. She felt disconnected from her mom, and that was it. That's the last they've spoken. So as a result of waiting until it was too late to ask for help, she didn't know she needed the help. She waited too long and she lost all of the insurance payout and she didn't have the revenue that she needed to keep going. She lost her son as well as her husband, and there's too many losses. And ultimately, she lost the connection with her daughter. Just like when Barbara was feeling depressed, burnt out, hopeless, unstuck, Elizabeth was feeling lonely, lost, worried, and not enough. David was heartbroken. He was looking for escape and he didn't want to find himself like Evelyn's son, getting involved in risky or dangerous drugs. He didn't want to be worrying so much about the kids or the worry that he might lose his job. Even I wanted to find a healthy way to move through grief and become an independent head of household and sole parent so I wouldn't feel overwhelmed and uncertain. Obviously, this is something I'm committed to. It's important that you listen to your emotions because they're telling you something vital. These are clear signals that if you scored any of those points on the game we played at the beginning of this webinar, they are clear signals to reach out for help. And this is something I am absolutely dedicated to. You are welcome to go to my landing page and get a gift, as I promised you, of the copy of my international best-selling book in 12 countries, Life Worth Living. It's written as a practical and compassionate guide to navigating widowhood and soul parenting. And in reality, it's appropriate to go through these 7 steps as I high-leveled them for you today at any time in your life when you're going through a change. So go to yourlifeworthliving.org, yourlifeworthliving.org, O-R-G, and you're welcome to download a free copy of my book. Or if you have your phone handy, you can just go onto the camera and put it up to the screen where this center box is in that QR code it's called. And at some point, if you angle it just right, then your camera on your phone is going to show that you can tap it to go right to yourlifeworthliving.org. And then you can click on that red button and get your copy of Life Worth Living right now. And if you're ready, and you're ready to make that change in your life, to take control of your next chapter, then this is the QR code that you need. And if you put your phone up to the screen right now, you've got the camera on, then that should give you a link right there that you can press on. This is also right at yourlifeworthliving.org. You just need to scroll down on the right side and you'll see my little picture there. And it says, who's taking care of you while you're taking care of everyone and everything else? I'll set time to help you. Let me know when you're free for a free strategy session. And when you click on that, it'll bring you to a schedule. You go ahead and schedule with me. It doesn't cost anything to you, but a little bit of your time. And I'm going to be so excited to meet you and find out what is happening in your one precious life. So let's make sure you've got a life worth living right now. Come to yourlifeworthliving.org and connect with me, Michelle Hoffmann. I look forward to meeting you.